The federal government has reached an agreement with Kinder Morgan to purchase the existing Trans Mountain pipeline and the infrastructure related to the Trans Mountain expansion project.
Ottawa will buy the delayed project from Kinder Morgan. The price tag, $4.5 billion. That's taxpayer dollars the Liberals are spending to ensure the pipeline expansion goes ahead. It could spend billions more in construction. In return, Kinder Morgan has agreed it will go ahead with its original plan to twin the pipeline this summer while the sale is finalized. The government says it doesn't want to be a long-term owner, though. It's already looking for other companies and investors to eventually take it over.
It's an agreement that we believe will deliver a real return on investment for the benefit of British Columbians, Albertans, and all Canadians.
But one that's a big gamble that the government hopes will pay off when it cashes out. So a big gamble for the government and also for the Prime Minister when it comes to the politics of all of this. And that's where Katie Simpson begins our coverage tonight.
Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Call it the start of the Prime Minister's reassurance tour. Justin Trudeau is reaching out to business leaders at home and abroad to urgently make the case that Canada is still a politically stable place to invest.
We're demonstrating that, yes, we will do what we need to do to get projects that we properly approved built.
Alberta Premier Rachel Notley is happily echoing that message since this is a big win for her and her province.
There is work yet to be done, but Alberta, this is a major step forward for each and every one of us.
But BC's Premier doesn't see it that way. John Horgan says a change in ownership changes nothing for his legal case against pipeline expansion.
I will continue to work for the people of British Columbia with the full force of my efforts within the courts and within the rule of law.
The stakes are high for the political leaders in this three-way standoff, but the Prime Minister may be the first one to feel significant consequences in the polls in the next federal election.
Well, I think the Liberals just lost every seat in BC. This is now the people of BC protesting the government of Canada that wants to proceed with a project that ignores our concerns.
And when Trudeau returns to the House of Commons...
Prime Minister, is your political career at risk over the decision you made today?
He'll be exposed to fresh criticisms from the Conservatives.
He has still failed to create certainty in the Canadian energy sector. Using taxpayers' money is just Justin Trudeau trying to buy his way out of his own failure.
And accusations of betrayal from the NDP.
Giving $4.5 billion to a Texas oil company is a failure of leadership that shows that Prime Minister Trudeau has no vision for the future.
Trudeau and members of his cabinet are headed to the oil patch to promote the government's decision. The Finance Minister will do the same thing, but on the international stage. He's hosting his G7 counterparts for a series of high-level meetings later this week in British Columbia. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Ottawa.
As you saw in Katie's story there, Alberta's Premier is certainly pleased. Rachel Notley's government is ready to put in $2 billion itself for unexpected costs to make sure that pipeline gets built. The CBC's Aaron Collins is in Calgary with how the deal is now being received by the industry.
Summer is construction season in Canada, a short window to get a whole lot of road work done. Same deal for the pipeline industry. It's why Kinder Morgan set that May 31st deadline for clarity on the Trans Mountain expansion. Well, for the Alberta government, today's purchase of the project by the federal government also bought clarity in spades.
To all Albertans, pick up those tools, folks. We have a pipeline to build.
So, today's deal should get those tools moving in time for this summer's construction season. The big question, whether the $4.5 billion price tag is worth it.
It's hard to say a good deal today.
Experts say the feds probably paid a fair price if the line is completed on time and on budget. A big if, with billions left to spend on the pipeline and more political hurdles ahead.
It's an important thing because a lot of things can delay a project when it's partly built and you've got 700 people in the field ready to work. If you have to send them all home, that costs a lot of money.
Now, we've seen this story before, from Hibernia to Petro-Canada. The federal government has waded into the private sector in the past, often turning a profit in the process. And insiders say this deal needed to be done to settle skittish investors worried about spending money in Canada. The big worry now, what nationalizing this pipeline will mean for future energy projects.
The risks have become almost too impossible for the private sector to handle. And that's something that everyone should be reflecting deeply on today about how did we get to this state of affairs in Canada.
Well, the fate of future projects in Canada may be difficult to predict, but if all goes according to plan, Trans Mountain should be pumping more oil to the coast and more cash into government coffers by 2020. Aaron Collins, CBC News, Calgary.
Now, as we said, the federal government has made it clear today it doesn't want to be the long-term owner of this pipeline. It's already actively looking for a buyer or buyers. Instead of one company, it could be a group of investors from, for instance, a pension fund looking for some long-term investment with low risk, a First Nation or a group of First Nations, oil shipping companies who want to get that oil out and into market, energy companies themselves, possibly even Kinder Morgan.